Hi, I'm Stephen Price.
Hello, I'm Cara Githens.
This is the Innkeepers, a podcast by Sanctuary Inn. At Sanctuary Inn, we believe we are called to equip, refresh, and restore God's global workers.
On this podcast, we will be interviewing guests who have much to teach us about the many facets of missionary care. Let's learn together and be encouraged to press on in the work God has given each one of us to do.
I'm looking forward to the interview that we have today. Cara, take a minute and introduce our guest to us.
Yes, today we are so pleased to have Rodrigo and Valeska Petrelli, who are Brazilian missionaries with us on our podcast. They are AIM, Africa Inland Mission missionaries, who have been living and serving in Africa for the last 15 years. They have two teenage sons, Pedro and Asafe, and the Petrelli family is currently based in Kijabe, Kenya right now. In the last 15 years, they have served in South Africa, Madagascar, Uganda, Kenya, and have been supporting and equipping multicultural workers. So it's thoroughly appropriate that we are interviewing them today on multicultural teams. They have done onboarding training for new missionaries, and currently Rodrigo is leading up a project, a meta project is what it's called, mentoring, equipping, training African pastors and leaders in basic theology and mission. Valeska is really a specialist in member care and TCK care. She has started an online community for Portuguese-speaking missionaries and multicultural women. And if you out there are able to speak Portuguese, you can look up her website. The link is in the show notes, but it's multicultural.com.
Yeah, that's easy for you to say.
Yes. So anyways, I'm thrilled to have them. I've known Rodrigo since I was 5 years old.
Wow.
So it's just so cool to see he and his wife and their kids serving and just kind of come full circle and interview them today.
Well, this is going to be a great conversation.
So today it is a pleasure to have Rodrigo and Valeska with us. Welcome. And
Thank you.
Yes, please share a little bit with us about your story and how you guys ended up on the field.
Okay, so my name is Rodrigo. I'm from Brazil, from Campo Grande, and I grew up in a Baptist church and always listening to the missionaries, their reports in the field, and was amazing. That was always touching my heart. And when I was a teenager, I understood that God was also calling me to be a missionary. And after sharing that with our leaders, they sent us to a Bible college. And after that, I went to be a pastor in a church here in Brazil. And I started to understand a little bit more that God was calling us in a specific way to Africa. And I met Valeska, and she will share a little bit her calling.
Yeah, for me, my story is when I was 8 years old. I was in a mission conference in my church, and they were sharing about Africa, and I felt like the Lord wanted to use me in Africa one day. I was a little girl, and afterwards, when I met Rodrigo in my youth years, we started to be friends, and we talked about missions together. And then when we made a commitment, we engaged, and the first thing we said, we're going to be a missionary in Africa. So we talked to our pastors, and we were led little by little to that until we were sent in 2010, where we left with AIM, Africa Inland Mission, to serve in Africa since 2010.
That's great. So what is your current work right now?
So today we are serving in Africa with Africa Inland Mission. We are in Kenya. We live in Kijabe. And I'm working training pastors, leaders, and pastors with a Baptist organization. And Valeska is working with training missionaries.
Yeah, I'm equipping leaders and international missionaries.
Mhm.
And now I'm assuming a role on member care for Latin American missionaries in MIAFI, which is a piece of AIM.
So, can you tell me a little bit about the team that you work on, and is your team a multicultural team, or what? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes. So Africa Inland Mission is a big organization, and we have missionaries from different parts of the world. And because of that, always we had to work with missionaries from everywhere. And I remember our first field in Madagascar for us was very different because we were working with Americans, English, Africans, Germans, Dutch, and I
Koreans.
think Koreans, and that was very different for us. First, because we were still learning English, and we thought we knew to speak, but when we were part of that team, we saw that their English were
They're different from one another,
and then we understood that not just English, but their culture as well. And we were all different. And we were working together. We were part of a team training national missionaries.
And we were the only Brazilians.
And somehow, I think, as missionaries, we are prepared when we leave our countries to work with the nationals. People, they are always focused to help us to understand that the nationals will be different than us. Their culture will be different. Their way to live will be different. But we never expected that we will be working with people different than us as well.
So your very team is who you're gonna have to adjust to.
I don't know. Somehow, I think we were very naive. We were very monocultural years ago. When we left Brazil, we have never had any experience on abroad. So we went for the first time, and we end up in a multicultural team for the first time too. So I think it was a very very big learning curve to us, and cultural shock in many different ways since then. And then I think all those years we have been working with multicultural teams since 2010, and we have been growing, and now we will talk more about it, but it's something that we enjoy, and despite of the challenge, but it was very hard for us from the beginning to deal with the local culture at the same time, to deal with so many cultures in our team, being the only Brazilian family and not feeling prepared for that. So it was a learning curve, let's put it that way.
So it was a culture shock on top of a culture shock.
I guess so. I think I have. Go ahead.
I'm just curious what kinds of things. I'm just curious about some of those conversations you two had with each other when you were processing the team you were working with. I mean, just what kinds of things were you struggling with as Brazilians trying to integrate in a team?
So I remember, for example, being a part of a multicultural team, the way we were evaluating our work. So some of the cultures that were part of that team, they were very direct, and that sometimes would hurt us, the way that they would evaluate our work, the way they would
feedback
we would receive, the way they would speak to us, and of course they never intend to hurt us, but that would hurt. And back home, we would cry together and say, "Did you see what the way they share with us? They should not
say in that
way. Why they just, in front of everybody, they were just, they were so mean with us," and those kind of things. And
I think for me, as a mother, I went to the field. Our kids were very small, like they were babies, 2 years old and 1 year old. And The way we raise kids it's very different from family to family, from culture to culture. And I think the way we do things, the way we cook, what is important for us, what is valuable for us as a team. I remember, like, Brazilian food is a way of showing love. The way we cook, the time you spend in the kitchen to offer your best for your friends. And I remember staying the whole day cooking for my multicultural team. This is at the beginning. Now I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Things I've learned. But I mean, when they arrived, many mothers were saying, you don't eat this food. This is not healthy, or has a lot of sugar, or whatever. I don't remember exactly, but it was very hurtful for me. Like, I prepared the whole day this food. How can you say that? Plus, we were learning English, and because we were not majority, we're minority most of the time, because English is the official language in AIM. For us, was hard to express feelings and to have enough vocabulary for discussions that were very intense and deep discussions. And we also hurt people because we didn't have the vocabulary to say in an appropriate way, and people were like shocked. Why you use this word? I was like, we only have that word, you know. So that's something that happened many.
This is the way we know how to express ourselves.
Yeah, so that was. So we had many stories in that sense, when we try our best, but it's not enough, because that's not part of the culture, especially from the beginning. To make friendship is very different. I remember many people don't, the native people, the local people, they're more open, but in our team, to strengthen or to go deeper in my friendship, I remember knocking the doors, making cakes, and trying to reach out to make friendships in the way I would know. And it took some time, but
the way we build trust for us is more about relationship. It's time together, it's playing together, it's eating together. And for most of our friends, it was about working together. So those kind of things that with the time
we learn. We don't take personally anymore, but at the beginning it was a hard one.
Wow. Thank you.
So you shared some of those challenges. Are there any other additional challenges you would like to point out or highlight that, for someone maybe who hasn't expected, like you guys, didn't realize you were going to end up on such a multicultural team? And what are the things that they should be expecting to face?
I think for me, learning more about cultural differences before you go to a team. Like some years ago, as Brazilians, we didn't have many resources, and we had another way to see the mission field and cross-cultural mission. Nowadays, and God has given us the privilege of training and preparing new missionaries. So it's very important not to only understand and learn the culture you're going to, but the culture your team is going to be. And of course, you will never learn everything, but to have the humility to put yourself as observer, as learner from each other's culture. And it's very challenging, because it's already challenging being together as different people, right? So we have personalities that are different. But when we add up differences on culture, that's potentialize more conflicts, potentialize more hardships. But at the same time, when you learn to learn each other and to not only respect, but to love one another, then you can be open to build your multicultural as a team.
Yeah.
Like not
Wow.
a
I think another aspect that is really important is to work before with expectations.
Hmm.
So, yeah, bringing our awareness. So if you are aware that you will be part of something that you will need to learn, we will need to work hard. As Valeska said, you will not know everything before you go, but you will have to work with people that is different than you. And you are not better than others. Your culture is not better than other culture, and you will have to work together to find your way, to build your own culture as a team, and respecting each other. So that is really important. So I think that is something we were not expecting that.
yeah.
And somehow maybe Brazilians, they think we believe our culture is the best one, you know?
I think everybody
Yeah,
I think
everybody.
is thinking they know what is best, and that's when the mess starts. So I think ethnocentrism is very it's something
alive
that
and well.
we need to work on and understand. But I feel this is like giving a time, having patience, and all of that are difficult. I think the biggest challenge is because being humility, being in humility, I guess that's the way we say, and trying to understand one another is not natural. Our sinful nature doesn't desire. We desire to win. We desire to prove that we're the ones that are right. Our values are the best. I think that's the biggest challenge, our humanity. Like, we don't want to serve one another, as the Bible say, like just honor one another or give to another the best place, and then try to understand and learn from that. So that's the biggest challenge, not only multicultural teams, but that's potentializing multicultural teams. That's the difference are bigger.
So when you're doing training now, you have the opportunity to share some of those hard things with the new people and you can kind of share some of those experiences to help prepare them for what they might encounter.
Yes, of course, because this is something that will impact our ministry as well with the locals, because the locals are watching us. So, and if we are not able to work together in unity, you know, it will bring some impact in our ministry as well with the locals. So when we moved to Uganda, after 6 years in Madagascar, we went to Uganda, and we had the privilege to build a training for new missionaries there. Our goal was about reducing attrition in the field, and all new missionaries that would come to that area, they would spend 1 year with us, and after that they would go to their fields, to their place. And one aspect of the training was that, helping them to understand all the cultures they would work with. And it was amazing to see that people, they were not expecting that.
Maybe I should make I don't know if that's a correction, but like, we can't understand all the cultures they're gonna work with, but the tools to learn how to learn people.
How to learn a culture.
Right.
How to learn a new culture, how to be a learner from other cultures.
And we were trying to bring this awareness to them, showing them the importance to do that, showing them that with that they would be much more effective in their ministry, and wherever they are, wherever they go. God will use that to bless their ministry in such a beautiful way.
One of the things we talk a lot about in our trainings and even our leadership, God has given us the opportunity, because we normally work with more I think it's the first time now that we are working with Brazilians, but it's
Yeah.
been many years working with other cultures. So I think it was interesting, this process of learning culture. You learn first your own culture. So I think there's the knowledge of yourself, the knowledge of your own culture, the good things about your culture, the bad things and hard things about your culture, and recognizing that. I think that's a way to start with, and then trying to understand each other's culture with humility and with love. As Rodrigo said, if we don't love one another, if we are not we are not working to have unity in our work, how can they know we're Jesus' disciples? So, but that's very challenging. And the movement that we have towards our team is different from the movement that we have from the culture, the local culture. Because when you are learning the local culture, your movement is to reach out to them and to be closer to their culture, to respect their culture, not to change their culture. Not in terms of what is not sinful, right? But when you're working as a team, you're not your moves are not towards trying to just accommodate to the other culture. Otherwise, you're going to be annulating. I don't know if that's the word, if this word exists in English. What is the word? Like when you give up yourself.
So you kind of lose your identity.
Yes. So we don't want to lose our identity as a team. Our movement towards the team is different, because then you maintain your identity, but you add to one another.
I think sometimes to the locals, we show much more grace. We want, because we want to show them Jesus, we want to bring them with the gospel. Our tendency is to show much more grace and love and respect. But because with our team, we understand that they have already Jesus. So
we assume everybody needs to be the same page. And that's all.
And there's a lot of assumptions, I'm sure.
Well, can you talk about some of your teams? And did you see people leave the field because they couldn't integrate into a multicultural team?
I don't know if we saw someone that left because they couldn't, but it's something that's add to the plate. People were in a difficult situation, and because it was so difficult for them to be part of a team, that they didn't receive the support they need to be there. So did you understand what I mean?
Yes. One more layer to the problem.
Exactly. So their situation were already difficult. So, and because they were not part of a team because of the situation they were facing, and then they didn't receive the support they needed. But of course, we heard situations where people couldn't stay because of
culture differences
as well.
But I mean, one of the things I think we are learning as organization, and I think it's new for many organizations, we have research that proves that team conflicts are it's a big thing for people to leave the field. But I don't know how much we have investigated what is the motive, what is the exact motive in the team, how many cultures do they have, what were the conflicts, So I think there are a lot of unknowns yet that are being now discovering, and now they're working on, like we have suggested. AIM now is trying to better understand and to make more specific questions in that way, because before people have left because they couldn't work as a team, or they didn't like the team, or something related to the team and related to conflict management. But what is the exact problem? I think there's a lot on cultural differences that are unknown, even for the person who is leaving, because if you're not prepared to work with different cultures, you take a long time, or you will never maybe understand some things are cultural.
Yeah.
Some people are blind, and they assume one another. They think they know what's happening. They think they know the root of the conflict. Yeah. And when you're going to study, when you go deeper, you see, oh, that's cultural. But this takes much more than what we have been giving in terms of time and research and preparation. Yeah.
So what do you think are some of the strengths of a multicultural team?
Can I answer them? You're thinking. I think when I see God's heart on bringing together the nations, the people, and language, the beauty of cultural differences, and how much this is in God's heart for us. That's a beautiful picture when you see in Revelation 7:9, the picture of everybody together. I don't know how, there's no way to think about it with so many differences, how we're going to be united, but we know it's going to happen, and this feels like heaven. So that's the first thing that moved me towards multicultural teams. I think another thing is the potential that this has. There is a lot of things that we have been discovering. Problem solving is much more rich when we have differences, diversity in a team, gender, culture, and and age as well. There's so many things that are more innovations and creativity, and a lot of potential for so many things. But we have this challenge of working together. But when we discover this, when we can learn together, there is a lot of results that other teams that are monocultural can't reach.
You can think outside of the box. You can think more creatively. You can.
And for us, it's clear that the organizations that are growing now are the ones who found a way to work better with the cultural differences. And because we live in a different moment in this history, and we are so connected, and when we manage to work with people from different cultures, well, you know that everybody brings something different. We are all different, and we have different gifts, and we have different
backgrounds
and understanding, and working together for God's glory. It brings something different to the field. So when we learned how to do that for His glory, of course, this will potentialize
our strengths as well.
So, and it's when we are in the field, we see very clear that the organizations that are learning this process, are managing this in a healthy way, they are growing. And so I believe that there is no other way. We need to learn to work together if you want to grow.
And I think that's the way the world is going to. So there's no way to resist. You learn and be better, or you're gonna be lost.
Organizations that aren't figuring this out, and multicultural teams and helping and teams grow, or what you're saying, they're gonna die. They're gonna no longer be relevant to our society and to the mission.
It's not just about Christian organizations. Everybody.
We're in a global world.
Yeah. I just keep going back to the picture of you trying to offer food to someone that was so dear and precious to you, and it didn't mean anything to them. I mean, because food and culture you can't take them apart. They're just all tied together. And I just think of all the things the efforts that you made to try to bridge those gaps, but weren't understood by the people you were working with. But
Yeah.
Mm.
I think I was remembering about inviting a family to come to our place for a dinner.
Mhm.
And Brazilians they like to cook together. We don't finish the food until the guests arrive because we want to make sure they know it's fresh and just made for them.
oh, yeah. How
So
interesting.
yeah, so when my people arrived, I was in the kitchen trying to finish up. And normally the ladies gonna go together and finish up together and put the table together as a sign of being together. And I don't know, it's just to start a conversation and serving together. And that happened with another family, and they arrived home, and I served and we ate together. And then years later, maybe a year later, my friend said, I was very hurt when you received me in your house the first time, and I didn't understand what was happening. I say, why? I don't remember. Tell me what happened. And she said, in my place, people, when the guests arrive, everything is on the table. That's a sign of respect, respecting the time, and everything was ready for them, and that we were waiting for them. And then we have time to just sit on the table and talk. We don't put our guests to work or things like that. So it was very hard because you did that to me. So things like that, they seems very small, but they can hurt deeply and go for years, like
I remember a leader. We were always trying to connect with him. So every opportunity, every holiday, we were inviting him for a barbecue or for doing something different. And always he had different excuses. He would find a way to do something other thing and refuse our invitations. And after some years, we were debriefing. He was leaving the field, and we were debriefing our time together. And I had the time to ask him, look, we were doing all those years. We were trying to connect more with you, and I'm curious why this didn't happen. And he opened his heart and was really interesting because he said, Rodrigo, I'm your leader. And because we are working together, for me, every time we are together is about work. It's difficult to me to connect with you and have a different relationship because our relationship is about work.
So when I have free time, I don't want to be with you.
When I have free time, I don't want to work. So
wow.
And this is something for us, it's something very different, and again, the way we build trust, the way we build relationship is not everything about work. We need to eat together, we need to have fun together, then we will work better together.
Wow.
There's always these unwritten expectations, and you don't know what they are. And we've talked about the iceberg as you probably have used that in this as well, the iceberg model, that culture is what is at the very tip, but most of culture is below the water, and when you hit it, then you know that you made the mistake.
And maybe we will not know at the time. It will take forever. That's where the problems arrive, because then after years,
for example, about this leader took 4 years for us to understand, And for me, it was always, well, maybe he doesn't want to be my friend, or he doesn't want to get closer, or he's hiding something, or I think he doesn't want to
Work together.
work together.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. For you,
Yeah.
you felt feelings of rejection, and that wasn't his intent.
Yeah. And then we're learning, like, now we try to observe first, understand, and ask questions. We're not embarrassed to ask questions anymore. What do you mean with that? What do you want to, why you say that? Why you don't come? Why you would not leave or whatever? So before, we come from a culture where we're indirect and we are very high context. So not as much as Asian culture, but we are high context in comparison to North America or to Europe even. So the voice can say not only the words, the tone of your voice, or your look, the way you look, the way you say. Sometimes you're saying something, but not exactly what you're saying. So to read that, so I was talking to my friends from other cultures that are extremely direct, and I said so many times, how can they not get what I'm saying? But it was not direct enough.
Yeah.
And it was, so I had to learn to speak and to say exactly what I need to say. So it took me years. So, and people were thinking I'm not being completely open, why I didn't say, why I didn't
being honest.
honest,
Oh.
Oh man,
Yeah.
it's hard. It's challenging. So what have been some resources? You've touched on it a little bit in what you guys are doing in training, but can you explain a little bit more of some tools or resources or how you're helping multicultural teams create this unity?
One resource that is helping us a lot, I hope I will say her name correct, is Erin Meyer.
Erin Meyer, okay.
Meyer, yes, she wrote a book, Culture Map.
Okay.
This book is really interesting because she brings different aspects of the culture, different scales that can help us to understand better each other. And also we can, there are some tests that we can make with each other and trying to understand where we are in this scale. And then when we have a team, we can bring this to the team and show them this kind of differences between us, and we can talk more about this to bring this awareness, to show them, look, we are different. So the way we build trust, the way we evaluate ourselves, the way we respond, the way we wait, anyway. And it's important to talk. It's important to show them we are not here to change each other. We want to respect. Of course, we will have to make adjustments because we are a team. I need to understand that the way Valeska reacts is different the way I react. So we'll try to accommodate a little bit and in a way to better work together as a team. So this is one of the tools that we use.
Yeah, we use the Erin Meyer has 8 scales. So each one you can put yourself where you are at on the scale, and then you see your friends where they are at, and then you can try to understand one another, and you can learn and work each scale and learn together. And that's one thing. The other thing is about we do the different assessments that are not only cultural, but we learn to assess one another in personality, but also in terms of values, and in terms of like, what are your priorities in your culture? What are your values? Because I think beliefs and values are very hard to, when we're have a big gap between one another, that can be a very big conflict as well. So we're trying to understand one another, not the value only for the culture, but how much you believe in the value of your own culture, and how we can build our own values as a team.
Mm-hmm.
Another concept we like working with teams is understanding what is monocultural, what is cross-cultural, what is the movement for cross-cultural work, what is multicultural, what is the movement for multicultural work. And there is some authors that talks about intercultural, and in AIM we have chosen to differentiate intercultural from multicultural as a step to go deeper.
Okay.
We have Gittens that talks about interculturalism, and we were talking about the first level is cross-cultural, is working in another culture. Then multicultural is the presence of different cultures and respecting one another. But intercultural is interpersonal dependence. One,
so
like
a blending.
The blending and depending one another. Not, I don't like seeing intercultural teams as some person said to me, like colors that you're gonna put together and mix it up. I don't like that picture. I like the picture of how do you say that in English? When you crash tiles.
Okay, a mosaic.
Yeah.
Mosaic is what it's called. Yes.
Mosaic. Yeah, that's what I see as intercultural. Like you stay, pieces of you stay, but together you combine also another picture. And you don't lose your identity, but you form another identity as a team, and you agree and you talk about it and you build together, not only to respect each other and, okay, you're there, I'm here, and put limits. No, but we've chosen to sacrifice ourselves and to honor one another and to discover what is important to one another and build it together. Yeah. So that's the movement we're trying to learn, and we have been using some tools to that. Another tool we use is the cultural gravity, right?
Yeah.
And when the picture of what is the name? Sorry.
Trampoline.
Trampoline, yes.
Yeah, trampoline, okay.
Yeah, so this movement of the majority cultures to help one another, if you're a majority culture, to give space to minorities as well, because which counts, it's not the number, but the presence of different cultures. So if you're in a trampoline and you're majority, you're gonna all go down.
Yeah.
But if you split and you give space, then you're gonna balance that, and how we do that.
So another book that we are using lately is from David Livermore, is Leading with Cultural Intelligence.
Okay.
So he works with this aspect, showing that this is something we can grow, we can develop this kind of intelligence. We need to be intentional about that. We need to study, we need to develop
it's a skill that
our ability to work with others. So, and this is something that opened our eyes for this. So this is an ability that we can grow. So it is necessary.
It's a skill you can get better at.
It's necessary intentionality.
Yeah.
So.
And we think and we believe that leaders are key to help the teams to be multicultural or intercultural, the way you want to say. But if the leaders don't understand and they're not developed on skills on that understanding of the importance of being intercultural, I think it's much harder for the team to function in a healthy way for interculturalism.
Yeah. Yeah, and if like you said, if one culture is dominating and not creating space, then that can also, if the leader's culture is dominating and not creating space, those kinds of can create more
And not only
dysfunction.
dominating, but having the understanding as well. Like, I think the leader is the one who facilitates this space, facilitate
Yeah.
like when
The conversations. And,
yeah, exactly, and the trainings and the importance and the values and all of that, these movements. Yeah.
So another book that we use also with our teams when we study together is Leading Multicultural Teams from Hibbert. It helped us also to talk more. Everybody reads the book and then we come together and we discuss the chapters together.
Yeah.
Leading Multicultural Teams from Hibbert.
Oh,
I think in English we have a lot of
Hebert, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
Hibbert. In English we have already some materials, and it's being helpful. Christian and non-Christian or business. I think we have from the business world a lot of materials that we can use to.
Yeah.
Our challenge has been helping the Latin American missionaries. We don't have much yet in Portuguese or Spanish, but we are working on that. We are trying our best to have more. And what we have is mostly translation. And when we talk about giving space to another culture and being contextualized, it's not really contextualized when it's only translation. So
and it's still talking about tools, something we were helping our teams in EAM as well. We were assessing our teams and giving space to them to talk about it. So sometimes we would visit a team in an isolated place and we would take a week together and we would access them and give them space to share the challenge they were facing. And it was very interesting to see the things that would come up. But it's necessary to make this time happen, you know. It's necessary to stop, because when everything is about work, you know, and we don't take this time to evaluate ourselves, and when we don't create this environment when we can talk and make the adjustments that are necessary, you know, we are just bringing things under the carpet. Is that the way we say? And that sometimes we can make things to happen, but sometimes it can complicate things.
Yeah.
So
and you have a mountain under the carpet that's been ignored.
Exactly. Yeah.
One of the things I would say, we should not underestimate the time for fun, the time for reflection, the time for not giving results at that time, but believing that this will bring much deeper results and with more longevity. Longevity. Yes. Yeah. And sometimes we do underestimate that, especially when we come from task.
Task-oriented culture.
Yes. And we forget how much this can bring to help the team to be healthy, having fun, having time to reflect, having time to build relationship and to bond. So we're working hard for that for our teams, because we have seen a lot of difference when that happens. And I don't know, I think we have learned to be more graceful. We have a lot to learn still, and being more task oriented, but at the same time we have been teaching our friends to put relationship as a task, because that's important too.
That's one way to put it. Put it on your list.
Anyways.
Well, I think it's great. I really appreciate what you just said about that how important kind of the downtime, the casual time, the play time, how important that is to build your team, because those are the things that well, they help people understand one another, but it lets you function on a whole different level.
Mhm.
Well, so as we wrap up today, are there some resources specifically for Brazilians, or even your ministry, Valeska, that you have going on the side here? Could you just share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's interesting. God has given me the CMM, Confessions of a Missionary Mom, or Multicultural Woman. We work with around 800 ladies in 58 countries, all online. And all of them have so many stories about multicultural teams and cross-cultural experiences. And through this, we have a website, Mulher Multicultural.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the notes.
Yes, mulhermulticultural.com, which we write an article every Monday, is there for whoever wants to access. We have a book that we're talking about transitions and how this can impact in our lives in cross-cultural mission. And we're giving some trainings and mentoring on building multicultural teams, building multicultural leadership, and all of that. And we have a commitment to grow on that and to build more resources. It's coming, not only from us. There's some things here and there, not enough yet, but I think we're gonna grow in that. We are praying for that. We are working for that. And that's been our work, but also together through AIM, we're helping also to prepare our new missionaries and talking about all those things that are Latin American. So we have been mentoring and helping our missionaries on the field that are Latin American, and especially Brazilians that are not prepared for multicultural teams yet. Yeah.
You're sharing your hard-won lessons.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And I'm really excited to hear about all these different things that you're doing.
Thank you so much for your time today. And I'm just delighted to just see how God is using you guys. And, it's a joy to hear that God is using you and growing you, and just encouraging. Childhood friends are off in the world doing other things. So,
yeah. Thank you so much for your time. Go ahead.
No, I would add one thing. I just remembered from the local friends, because we're talking a lot about multicultural, but in terms of what Rodrigo is doing with the pastors that are Africans, we have been giving them some training about multicultural too, and has been so interesting because they have realized so many things from years and years that foreigners have been there for them or doing work with them. And some things they're realizing now, and they're saying, oh, that's why they do that way. That's why they did that way. And it's been a blessing too, not only giving the trainings on Bible knowledge, but also those kinds of tools for the Africans have been a joy as well.
Yeah. So one of our goals now is to prepare Africans to be missionaries as well, to finish the task.
Yeah.
And we are trying to help them in this aspect as well. And so we are trying to share these resources with them, because we need to work with them and help them to work with us. It's not easy. So, and it has been a huge blessing as well.
Yeah. The call to missions is for all of us. So equipping and really helping the gospel continue to spread around the world takes all of us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for your part.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So Steve, what did you think of our conversation today?
Well, that was a great conversation, and it could have gone much longer, I think. It was just really good hearing them and their expertise. I mean, I loved hearing about their arrival and when they showed up in Madagascar and how confusing it was to be part of that team. But then the things that they've learned from that and the obvious time they've invested in being more and more equipped, prepared for themselves as well as the teams that they're training. I was just so enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, they've become cultural learners.
I
think that's
truly.
what was super encouraging to me, is to recognize that they have learned how to learn culture.
Yeah.
And that is something that they said, is a skill that you can learn. And I hope that others who perhaps they find themselves on a multicultural team right now and they're feeling really stuck, like, go to the resources we're going to put here in the show notes and look up those resources, and you can learn culture and learn how to learn a culture so that you can perhaps not have some of these conflicts, or when you have these conflicts, know how to respond.
Or maybe you're not understanding why your team isn't connecting like you think it should, and there could be just some very small thing that's just kind of standing in the way, and it's a cultural issue, and it's no one's right, no one's wrong. It's a cultural issue. Yeah.
So I was so encouraged, and it was so great to talk to them and hear their story. So thanks for joining us, everyone, and we look forward to you joining us next time.
Thank you for joining us for the Innkeepers podcast. Our mission at Sanctuary Inn is to equip, refresh, and restore God's global workers. We hope today's podcast was an encouragement to you, or maybe the podcast you heard today, you've been prompted to pass this along to someone you know that could benefit from today's conversation. Creating a podcast is a team effort. Cara and I prepare and do the interviews, and we're grateful for the time that our guests give us out of their busy lives to help us learn more about missionary care.
We want to thank Tim Downing for the music he wrote and performed for the Innkeepers podcast. Tim is a very talented musician, and you can find out more about Tim at downingkeys.com. Our podcast is edited by Javier Bolanos, and our website and show notes are prepared by Micah Githens, my amazing husband. You can visit the Sanctuary Inn website to see more of Micah's great work at sanctuaryinn.org.
Thank you for joining us on our journey to learn more about missionary care.